Hi, my name is Julian, and myself and Mr. Coy led a group of students to Honduras this year. And I've had the privilege of leading the trip for the past 2 years. Jim actually started this concept of taking the kids to Honduras several years back, and I'm glad that we're continuing with that process. Some of you may ask, what's the value in taking college students to Honduras each summer? There's actually a lot of value in it. First of all, kids learn to travel. A lot of my students go, and this is the first time that they have traveled abroad. And it's kind of neat to help them get their passport and kind of see the adventure in that part of it. This year, over half of our students had never flown on a plane. So that's an interesting thing, and it's a huge learning curve, especially when kids are getting ready to go into things like business or whatever, where they're going to have to learn to fly and navigate in the airport. This is huge. Second, having a cross-cultural experience, I think, is really important, especially when you are thrown into a country where you don't speak the language and you have to learn to communicate. It kind of forces you to learn a little Spanish and communicate in other ways. It also, I think, is really good for them to see how others live, and when we go to church, see how the Hondurans worship. But the most important thing that I think the value in this trip is the spiritual aspect. Kids go over there, and a lot of times they tell me that they feel like they've grown closer to God by being over there. And in a lot of ways, I think it's because we don't have a TV, we don't have places for them to really spend much time on their computer, and they really get away from their phone. And a lot of those distractions that we have here are no longer there once they were on the Faith Home campus. And I feel like that is the most important thing. This trip really, I think, also embodies the mission of entering to learn and go forth to serve. When our students are here on campus, they're learning a lot of new concepts, and we try to take those concepts and put them on the mission field and using those concepts. And chances are not all of my students are going to become missionaries in Honduras, like AJ. But what I do hope they learn is to learn to recognize need of others, whether that's at their school, it's in the dorm with their roommates, or even in their classroom if they become teachers, or out in their communities in the future. I hope they learn to recognize need and learn to serve others and show people the love of Christ. So thank you. Now we're going to let Mr. Coy share a little bit about his experience.
Well, you mentioned the value for our students. Well, there's value for old guys like me also, okay? Because this will be my 16th year teaching here at OCU, and this summer was my first trip on a mission trip. And I wasn't sure what was going to happen or how to prepare for it. And I remember Charity asked me, well, what do you expect from this trip? And I told her, I said, I think I'm going to let God make that decision and make those plans for me. I wanted to see where God would lead me into this trip to Honduras. I had never in my, so many years, okay, been out of North America. Okay, I've been to Canada and to Mexico, but never into a foreign country. And it was a new experience for me. And when I think about what God had in store for me, He wanted me to see that what we have here is way better than what we think we have. When I looked at those children in Honduras, looked at the village where they didn't have any running water, and I come home and I see how we have so many things to be thankful for that really we do not have anything to complain about. And I also remember that when I got home, and I mentioned it to my wife, Darlene, she said, how did it go? And I said, you know what? I think I have found my calling. I think mission is the place that I'd like to be involved in. Never had thought about that, with all the years that I have been living, that this would touch me as much. And I look at these people that we dealt with, and I look at what's being done, like at Faith Hope, and the expressions on those children and the adults when they see us. We should be there to help them, because that's what our mission should be. So it was a great experience for me. I plan on, God willing, to go back next year and hope to continue until the point where I can't. So that's what my mission trip was all about. On a different note, despite what Chris Pratt might say, Honduran coffee is good. And I just want to tell you, AJ, next year we may just come back with about 50 pounds of coffee and give you some competition. Thank you.